And if you don't mind, I'll demonstrate. First off, you start your knees and your hips at the top of the swing, lower part of your body. Arms and hands follow, bringing you into position to hit.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to Course Language. It's all thanks to Callaway. However you're finding us, wherever you're finding us, we're bloody glad that you have. If you're playing for the first time with us or you're an existing member, welcome back, or welcome to. It's great to be back talking all things golf again. Sam Hargraves, tragic golf commentator, joined as always by the man who played on tour, won on tour, he commentates on tour. He brought the season home in spectacular fashion, did Ryan Lynch. Hello, mate.
Hello, Sammy. Mate, how much has gone on since we last spoke in the golf world? It's been pretty crazy, to be honest. Everything happening all over the place, and we're geeing up for the Masters as well. Its major season is coming close, and we got a lot to talk about this week.
So we are going to try and get through as much as what's been making news as possible. Of course, we will have a chat about Tiger Woods, the biggest story probably in sport. With his most recent car accident, and cue all the jokes relating Tiger Woods and not being able to drive. How ironic. You can throw your best of those up for us if you want to at Course Language Pod or Course Language Podcast at gmail.com. We do it all for Callaway. We'll get around the grounds. There's been some incredible results. We've got another Scramble this week as well. That and a whole lot more. And our special guest this week, I would say this, Lynchy, without offending your good self, of course, I don't think there's a more popular man in Australian golf than our special guest this week. Can you think of anyone more popular in Australian golf than Paul Gow?
I'm not sure. Paul Gow, yeah, exactly right. I mean, the reception he gets around the Australian Opens and stuff like that, very, very popular man. He does some great work, obviously, amongst the golf industry, and he was there over the weekend at the season finale, the national event on the Australasian PGA Tour. I was out there walking the grounds, and he's just one of the great characters in Australian golf, I think, Gowie. Everyone's got a Paul Gow story, and all of them positive, I would say. He's a very popular man and a great fella.
He's the people's champ. I think I said during our coverage with SEN of the Australian Open that I'm walking down the course, and at different stages I had Mark Leishman that I was covering that group, Siwoo Kim, Ryan Fox. These are some of the biggest names in Australian golf. And of course the players get shouted to heading down the fairways, Lynchy, but no one got shouted out to more than Paul Gow. And, of course, he's part of the Callaway family now, so it's great to have him on board, and he's our special guest playing a quick nine with us a little later on. You and I have had a great week. We were crossing paths, albeit me on the wrong fairway, you on the right fairway, for the PGA Associates Pro-Am at Yarra Bend on Monday of last week. But then we got to team up and have one of the great days. It was one of my favourite days of the year. We got to play the National Pro-Am, playing the Gunnamatta course where the season finale was over the weekend. And we had an incredible group too. Yourself, me, Glenn Maxwell was part of our group, and Josh Younger, who is one of the great blokes on the PGA Tour of Australasia. What a cracking afternoon that was.
Yeah, it was brilliant, and a fantastic golf course. We talk about the venues all the time and how important they are to the game that you have, and how enjoyable it was. We missed the weather, thank God. It was a beautiful day out there on Wednesday. Wasn't
we got
great.
hit a couple of times. Of times.
Wasn't great on Thursday and Friday for the players, and we'll get into that event on around the grounds. But we had a great day. I mean, I used to travel with Josh Younger quite a bit. You were trying to dig up a little bit of dirt on, trying to dig up a little bit of dirt on me around the place. So thanks to Younger for keeping his mouth a little bit zipped there. But
what do you call him?
Older, and Bruyères, another player on the PGA Tour of Australasia, is calling him Euster. So used to be Younger. Or was Younger.
That's it. That was very
sharp. What it was. So I was disappointed that Older hadn't continued on, but he's a great man and a very good player. Went very close to winning this year. Went down to Mark Leishman at the Vic PGA at Moona Links as well. So got plenty of games still left. Younger, and Mate, tell us what was what was the best part of the day? You said you loved it so much, as did I. I want to hear what your feelings were.
Well, the course first and foremost, because whilst the old course I'm told slopes you up about 5 shots. The Gunnamatta course is a little bit more helpful at certain times if you know the right path to take around it. So I thought the course was beautiful, and the backdrop of the ocean and views back towards the city. It's visually stunning. The course is just a heap of fun. But what makes any great round of golf is really the company. So Older, sensational, and yourself and Maxie were just a joy to play with. And you guys both played, and so did Josh, by the way. You guys all played really, really well. I think you had 8 birdies on the day. Maxie, and yes, we were playing a Texas Scramble where you pick the best drive and all play your own ball from there. But Maxie was bogey-free, 6 under as well. He let me know a little bit later on. So you guys really did light it up, and that was just a lot of fun to watch. It was great fun watching you and Maxie duel it out off the tee as well. He got you at the Callaway Quantum launch event, and I know that you were still smarting from that. And there was a few times where he was very happy with where he'd launched a drive to, and was, declaring longest drive wins and stuff like that, only to find that you'd pipped him on a couple of occasions. So that was a lot of fun.
We had a lot of fun.
It was great. And then it was nice to have a hidden camera at one point, catch my first drive of the day, which was a toe ball out 90 degrees to the right that I skied out onto another fairway, almost claiming someone of the very first hole, and then to find out that had been filmed. That,
go to the Nationals Instagram page, and they posted a video of the Pro-Am, and it, Sammy, your good self, you pop up right at the end. We reposted it, but if you haven't seen it,
I thought I got
and
away with it
because
and
it was
then the
so
very
good.
last thing, I know. And the other video doing the rounds, which I've had a lot of people share with me, is that the PGA took a video of Maxie, and he bombed one, got a nice high draw, and very, very well struck shot. And he turned around and said, put a tracer on that. And as he stepped aside, you can see me standing there waiting for a fist bump, only to still be waiting to this very day for that fist bump. And how many mates of mine do you think have found that, were sending it around to each other and then sending it to me? I've been bombarded with it. Go back and have a look. In the end, I just shared it.
Oh, that's
in the end, I just shared it and said, still waiting. I texted him and said, did you come back for that fist bump in the end? And I'm still waiting for a reply for that as well. But no, he's one of the great people in sport. And it's no wonder he's had such a long affiliation with Callaway and Travis Matthew, because he's a brilliant brand ambassador and great company, and just loves the game. Like, he's a golf nerd.
I actually took something away from him. You would have remembered we were standing on the 16th tee, and I was fascinated by the conversation that we had. I simply asked one of the great sportsmen in Australian sport for
one of our greatest white ball
a long
cricketers
time.
ever.
Exactly, one of our greatest cricketers of all time. I was
and
curious
crime
about
that he didn't play more Test, Lynchy. A crime. Sorry, I've cut you off here. But do you know that the English and the Indian players laughed about the fact that we weren't picking Glenn Maxwell for Test matches? Graham Swan told me that. The English players laughed about it. The Indian players used to laugh about it. They couldn't believe that we didn't pick Glenn Maxwell in Test matches. He's the one player they all feared.
Yeah. Oh,
anyway.
Yeah, and for good reason. I mean, listening to him on that 16th tee, I asked a simple question that I'm fascinated by this for any elite sports person. What's your process? When you just find yourself going a little ahead or a little behind, or you start thinking about whether or not where someone's bowling, or you just get out of your rhythm, or you're on the golf course and you've hit a couple right and you're just not sure where to go, what is your process to get you back to no thought? And I found it fascinating that he would find a grain of sand or a blade of grass and step away from the wicket, and he'd just gently move the grain of sand or the blade of grass or whatever he could find around the place, and focus on something really, really small and be really deliberate with that motion to clear his mind, and then get straight back into his routine. So that I found really, really fascinating. I'd like to ask him more about that and have him on this pod and talk about it, because I think that could really help all your golf games out there as well, just to find that little bit of moment where you can neutralize your thoughts and just bring things back to absolute basics and get yourself back into your round. The other thing that fascinated me was that he was so open about the amount he thought forward in the game. And, he's one of the greatest run chasers of all time. The amount of maths that's going through his head, how many runs he averages against this bowler, how many thinks he can get off that bowler, whether or not he's got someone down the other end, and whether he has to protect the wicket and go for twos or not take the singles, and how much that accounts into what risk he's taking on any given ball. Again, the parallels against and across golf and cricket and any elite sport, I thought that was fascinating, because obviously you're playing the ball, but he was very much in the future in everything that he was doing. And it made me think about the amount of things that professional golfers and their caddies talk about before they pull the trigger. Where's the wind? What's the yardage? What's the carry on this bunker? Where's that slope going to take the ball if I hit it with this shot shape? What trajectory do I want this ball coming out? Where do I not want to miss this? Okay, let's select that club. Let's select that shot shape. And the parallels I thought were really fascinating, and I thought he was great with his time, and I loved hearing his process and the way that he went about it. It was fascinating.
And I think that's what makes him a really good golfer too, Lynchy, because he is more than just a big driver. He's a very good golfer. Plays off 2 or 3, I think. And he's much more than. And I'll tell you what he's best at. And this might be another thing that would surprise people. He prides himself most on
his putting. Exactly
he's
right.
A great putter.
Yeah. So anyway, I found that really fascinating. There were some other fascinating chats that we could have him on as a course language confessional, which we'll talk about later on down the track. Myself, Josh Younger,
He's got a few.
We're talking about some of the times we might have found ourselves in a little bit of strife. One of those I've already shared with this audience, so we can get into that at a later date.
We should have got Josh Younger, because he's got it. We're going to have to get him to record his, because his is pretty bloody funny too.
He's got some good ones. Now, I'm curious, just based on what we've spoken about there, was there anything that you gleaned in your round because we were talking a fair bit about this while we were out there, and you said you had a couple of takeaways. I'm fascinated to hear what your takeaways were.
So I wanted to get you to tell the course language members, and if you're listening to this right now, turn it up a little, because I was having a real struggle off the tee. I was snap hooking everything except the first one, which I towed out 90 degrees to the right-hand side, and that is there's video evidence of that. The next 3 after that were all snap hooks to the left, and I could not figure out what was going on. And you're really good, because you normally say, I'm never going to give you a lesson mid-round. But I just said to you, mate, can you help me? What are you seeing? Because I don't have the answers and I can't figure it out, and I don't want to, I want to contribute to the team. And what you said to me was, you are incredibly stiff and rigid. And you said to me, all I want you to do, because you're missing left every time. And you asked me what I'm trying to do. And I just said, I'm just trying to hit it straight. And you said, well, if you're still trying to hit it straight and you're snap hooking it left, maybe open the face up and see if you can hit a cut. And all I want you to do is pick a point as far away as possible that you might want to hit the ball to, small, in the distance. And you kept saying, get athletic. And that was, I think, your way of saying, it can be get athletic, loosen up, and free your mind. And my next 3 drives, I absolutely pumped. And almost caught you and Maxie on a couple of occasions. And we started being able to use more, and we used the drives we had to use. But what I was most happy about is at least we're in the conversation about whether we would use mine or not.
Well, I think this is something that happens to a lot of golfers, especially mid-round, and especially with that club, is that when the driver's not working, usually it is the biggest punisher. It's going to go the most offline for the smallest margin for error. And I think that the more you think about your swing, or the more you keep trying to do the same thing that's not producing the result that you're after, the more of a rabbit hole you're kind of falling down. And I say this a lot to a lot of people that I coach, is especially when you're on the golf course, pick something that is really specific and just try and hit it at that. And I know that sounds ultra simplistic, but the amount of people that don't have a really clear target in their mind when they're standing on the tee and they're looking down a 30-meter wide fairway and they're just trying to move it down that 30-meter wide fairway without picking something much smaller is very common. And when you're asking yourself to get within 5 degrees of the club face to hit it in a 30-meter range or whatever, then you've got a lot more margin for error, or the shot is going to be much worse. If you pick something in the distance, really specific, small target, small miss, and get as athletic as you can, and I don't care whether or not the next couple of drives go way offline, just try to get as free-flowing as you can. I need to look up what this term is, but there is a terminology for the more free and loose things are, the more your brain can make up for any little minor movement. So your elbow might drop, so your forearm might rotate a little bit more in order to get athletic, to square that face up to the object that you're actually trying to hit it at. So if you're struggling with a hook, try and play the opposite shot. Try and play the cut and try and get that face open, for goodness sake, because it's going left. But be really clear with the target that you've got in mind, because that 2 degrees, 1 degree makes a really big difference. And with that target in mind, you've got a better idea of where that 1 degree is. So I thought you freed up, and I thought you did a really good job for the rest of the round after that. And it kicked you into gear a little bit, which was nice.
That's great advice. And if you've got any questions about that, do get through to us at Course Language Pod on Instagram, or courselanguagepodcast@gmail.com. All thanks to Callaway. Biggest news of the week, Lynchy. Just before we finish, big thanks to the PGA Tour of Australasia for having us. Phelps, Nick Dasty, Paul Munnings, who threw me a group and said fill it, and we're just really grateful for the opportunity to be able to come and have such a great day. And the dinner was just absolutely magnificent as well at the National. That is a phenomenal facility that they've got there. So the big news of the week, Lynchy, is for the third time, Tiger Woods has been involved in a really serious car accident. Driving home at Jupiter in Florida, passed the breathalyzer test, but refused to submit the urine test for illicit substances, and now finds himself staring down the barrel of whatever will come from those charges.
It's a real shame.
How's that landed with you?
Look, just more disappointment than anything else. It'd just be nice. I was really hoping that he was almost going to get up and be able to play the Masters this year. I don't expect Tiger Woods to perform anywhere near good enough to win ever again. I mean, he destroyed his leg. He's had multiple back operations since the last car accident he had, which was following the 2019 triumphant victory at the Masters. But it's just nice to be able to see him wandering around and just still being a part of the game. And there's the nostalgia in me that love that. I'm just flat that we're not going to see that, and just more of these questions around. I just hope his mental health's okay. I mean, cue any of the jokes that you want to put in here. He's certainly a better driver of the golf ball than he is a driver of a car, but he's potentially endangering other people on the road, not just himself. So there's not a whole lot that we need to sort of mention on this that hasn't already scrolled through your Instagram feeds or through your Twitter feeds or X tweets or whatever you follow. It's just a shame that if he is at the Masters, he's going to have to be answering these questions, and in all likelihood now we're probably not going to see him at Augusta without a microphone in his face talking about this. But hugely disappointing, and obviously this is going to continue that slight tarring of a reputation that is a very interesting one over many, many years. Certainly brought more people to the game than anyone before him, I would say, and a very interesting character. But what are your thoughts, mate?
A few different things. Firstly, get a chauffeur. You can afford it. That's the last flippant thing I'll say. So I'll put my hand up. I was done for drink driving 2011, I think it was. I was designated driver, thought I was drinking lights. They weren't. They were heavy, so got pulled over and thought, yeah, I'm all good. I'm being the responsible one. Was that they were heavies and I lost my license, and I totally changed my life and turned my life around. If that didn't happen, I don't know whether I would have, because I actually lost my job, but then I went and chased my radio dream, and I am where I am today. It's not the way to do it, boys and girls. But so I put my hand up saying I have been guilty of that. But this is the third time. And the last time when there has been toxicology reports, what they found Police did say that they thought that he had taken some kind of medication or some kind of drug. He was very lethargic at the scene. His body has been through a whole lot, and I'd imagine that he does need certain treatments to get through days and get through trainings and all those kind of things. People are sort of now asking some deeper questions of the golfing community. How much have you guys all known about this, and have we been covering up for this? Did we take this seriously enough the first 2 times? Are there enough people in Tiger's life that would say, mate, this is alarming? Like, does he have enough dissenting voices in the room? Because oftentimes people that get to those kind of positions don't have their devil's advocate in the room. For whatever reason, there's a lot of people that sit around and say you're amazing and whatever you think and whatever you say. There's all the gossip reports now that his girlfriend has given him an ultimatum or whatever. And if that's the case, then and that's great. But yeah, I just can't help but worry about the person. Yep. I don't know whether Tiger takes it seriously, the idea of being a role model. I don't know him. All I do is just admire what he was as a golfer. Yep. And I think that's sort of where it stops. I mean, I'm not going to be taking life lessons from him, but I would certainly think that there's no one that's done more to advance golf than he and Jack Nicklaus. Where he sits is in another stratosphere of not just golfers but athletes. So, and I admire that wholeheartedly. But I can't help but be concerned about once as bad, twice as alarming, and 3 times as It's a habit.
Absolutely. And look, who knows what it was. He'd rather probably people speculate than actually have it proven or come out. And look, who knows if it was something to try to help him get through some of these training sessions, some practice sessions. Who knows? Maybe he's trying to push as he feels that he might be able to get one more, but it certainly looks like he's further away from that now than he's ever been. And I think obviously we probably just have to take that 2019 Masters and appreciate it for what it was. Probably one of the greatest Masters, or I think it was Jack Nicklaus was it 86? Was Jack Nicklaus's last one at
when he became the oldest
of his career. And just enjoy the fact that we got to see it. So, not a good look for Tiger at all.
I think it's really embarrassing. Embarrassing is not the right word, because if he, but
as in, like, it's almost a bit of a joke. Certainly in our Australian culture, it's a bit like, mate, come on, get yourself. Get yourself a driver, mate. Seriously,
I never thought that I would. I never thought I'd feel sorry for Greg Norman, because what hasn't he been able to do in this world and achieve? But I watched that documentary and just my heart broke for him when he's standing in the players' room. Now I feel a little bit like that for Tiger. Like I just sort of feel a little bit sorry for him, because it is quite embarrassing. I think, and if he's got genuine issues and things that he's confronting, I really hope that he's getting the right help. Let's get around the grounds, because there is a phenomenally good news story, and maybe these things have a little bit of a synergy to them, and there is a little bit to glean on both sides of this. But we've come to the end of the PGA Tour of Australasia season. I want to get to that in a minute, but it's probably a pretty good place to start on the PGA Tour. Gary Woodland's first win since his US Open in, I want to say 2018, after what he had been through since then, is quite remarkable. That 2023 undergoes surgery to remove a brain lesion. He returned to the PGA Tour a few months later at the Sony Open. He revealed earlier this month that he had been struggling with PTSD as a result of that. And then he's just won on the first time since the 2019, US Open, and in remarkable fashion. I mean, we talk about great comebacks, and we've spoken about Tiger. This is remarkable mental strength.
Yeah, huge. I mean, brain lesions, and obviously left him in a really bad way. Thankful to have his life, really, with the tumours, the things that were removed, and what a long road back it's been for him. And this is an absolute feel-good story, winning by 5 shots over Nicolai Højgaard, and obviously Min Woo Lee was in that final group as well, so he's been playing brilliantly this year, we might point out. Really excited to see how he goes at the Masters, one of our own, obviously. But no, really feel-good story. Obviously, this is really special to him this week to climb that mountain again and to tick off another victory. This is obviously, thankfully, I haven't dealt with a whole heap of this sort of stuff myself, and I count myself very fortunate for that. But presumably this doesn't change anything. He's still got a lot to work through and a long road ahead of him.
Yep.
But this was a very special moment. You could see on the putting green as he finished how much it meant to him. Literally brought him to tears, and the embrace that he had with his wife and what they've dealt with over the last few years. And we spoke about just moments ago about your golfing mortality and your professional athlete mortality. Can kind of rear up, and he would have asked himself all sorts of difficult and devastatingly hard questions since his US Open win in 2019, and it was
Hang
just
on. Yep,
it was
yep, we got that.
It was brilliant theatre to watch, and as I said, did it in style. So he is one of the most talented players on the planet as well. Bombs it, and nice to see him back in the winner's circle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to commend Minwoo Lee because he was the defending champ. He was right in the frame of it, and then found some trouble through that round that essentially ruled him out of contention. He just ended up getting a bit too far back. But when they were coming down 18 and towards the green, and Minwoo Lee, there's a photo that has shown this, and they've sort of widened out a camera shot to see Minwoo Lee like amping the crowd up to get louder about this moment. And then he has put stuff on social media about it since, Minwoo, and I just thought, what great awareness of the occasion, what great camaraderie, what a beautiful and touching, I suppose, hand to lend in that moment. Not that the crowd needed any more incentive, but he was just letting them know, like, just give it more. Like, don't leave a decibel of cheering within yourself. Celebrate this moment for how special it is. And I just thought that was a beautiful touch, and well done to him. And you mentioned it's not something you had, and without making this about me at all, since I was a little kid, depression and anxiety, and have got regular treatment throughout my whole life. Ricky Gervais made a joke recently about we wear our mental health battles as almost like for some reason, a badge of honor these days. And it's not that we should be ashamed of it, but he's like, people are almost putting it on their email signatures. So I just want to read something that Gary Woodland had to say, because I think it is pertinent to anybody that might be having any struggles in their life, especially with their mental health. It's simple, but it is very effective. He said, anybody that's struggling with something, I hope they see me and don't give up. Just keep fighting. And it is a message that transcends whether it be your socioeconomic situation, whatever your path in life. But it is just a great message that he put out there. He spoke about the therapy that he'd done, the support of his wife. All this is really important. I was at a funeral of one of my best mate's dads over the weekend, and his best mate is a doctor, and he said that he didn't know that just before Filthy had passed away, that he was really struggling with his mental health. And he said that anybody that comes to him with depression, he always says to them, the first thing that he asks them is, does your best mate know? And if the answer is no, he said, will you come back to me when you've told them, and we will go about getting you the treatment you need. So tell your best mate, tell your partner. Lifeline, Beyond Blue, these are all great organisations to help you. So I just thought it was fantastic that Gary Woodland spoke up in the way that he did, so openly, so honestly.
Whew. Yeah, no, absolutely spot on. Couldn't agree with you more there, Sammy. I'm going to take it down a notch a little bit, as important as all that is. We've got Masters Week coming up. I'm going to run down the leaderboard and just point out a couple of players that you should be paying attention to. And we don't have to go far down the leaderboard to look at Nikolai Højgaard, who is putting together a very, very nice little season so far. He's had 7 from 7 cuts made, and he's making them in some pretty impressive places. He's had a second, a third, 3 top 10s, and 5 out of 7 top 25s. So keep your eye on him. He is a ball striker, and he's striking the ball very well at the moment. Minwoo Lee, who we've already mentioned as well. They're both Callaway men as
both
well.
Bombing
which
that
we
quantum, aren't they, at the moment?
They are. Obviously, Chris Gutterer, who finished T6 this week as well, won twice already so far this year, a ball striking machine. Jason Day, great to see him playing well. We know how well he plays Augusta. Also, just want to shout out again. I know we've sung his praises a little bit, but Sudarshan Yalamaraju in his first year as a rookie just keeps doing it. He's finished T6 again this week, and he's flying. Having spoken to him again at the Vic PGA last year, a very interesting individual, doesn't have a coach, has taught himself everything through YouTube, which is just fascinating
every golf
stuff.
coach hates this bloke because he's getting
No,
off YouTube.
we love it. We love it.
I'm
It's
kidding.
all
I'm kidding.
Everyone does it their own way. So shout out to Yalamaraju. Holy moly, could we have seen this happening? Carl Phillips, another Aussie, finishing T19 this week, and obviously Adam Scott as well, T21. Nice to see him playing well with the Masters just around the corner as well. So we'll have a Masters preview. We're going to give a good rundown of the Masters preview after Valero Texas Open next week. We will we'll give you a good full Masters recap, our predictions, who we think will go well, what we're looking forward to. And by then, we probably would have seen that Rory McIlroy documentary. I actually can't wait for that to come out in the next few days as well. So that's all for the US tour, mate. Where do we want to head to next?
Well, we definitely want to look at the PGA Tour of Australasia, the culmination of a cracking season on Australian and New Zealand shores. And we knew who had won the Order of Merit coming into the National, but what we didn't know was who was going to get those other two spots to take their place on the Hotel Planner Tour, which is a second-tier tour through Europe. And, well, a man who's probably been the player of the year, really, across the course of the season, Lynchy. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Cameron John does it again in a playoff. The man just doesn't know how to lose a playoff.
Unbelievable. So he's won 3 times this year and lost in a playoff as well. So he's been in 3 playoffs.
He did too.
I think he's been in 3
Jordan
playoffs
Dool
this year. Incredible. Yeah, lost to Jordan Dool just down the road at Rosebud. But, I mean, geez, it is a very interesting question. Now, the tour has always operated this way. You've got to play well in the main events, in the big events, which is what Travis Smythe did. So 5th at Paraparaumu at the New Zealand PGA, 5th at the New Zealand Open, which is one of the 4 or 5 really big events on our tour, and then went out and won the new event, which was a major event on this tour. So he has won the Order of Merit. We're looking forward to having a chat to him and find out what he is going to be doing. But I would argue that the player of the year is probably, in this instance, not the man who won the Order of Merit. I would probably argue that Cameron John has put together a season that we should remember, and some of the shots that he hit this year will be remembered certainly by me for a long, long time, but also from him. Daniel Gale, he beat in the playoff, who's been playing on the DP World Tour, some Hotel Planner stuff as well. They'll be playing a lot together next year. And James Marcassani finished 3rd on the Order of Merit as well, so he picks up a Hotel Planner tour. So full tour card over there, have the opportunity to go over there, play well, and try and get onto the DP World Tour. It is a really, really competitive tour, and they don't play for heaps of money. It's around 500,000 Aussie. To put it in perspective, we play for around 200 to 250, our small events. And obviously, you've got a lot more travel costs associated with playing the Hotel Planner Tour. So anyone who's considering or considered supporting a player or jumping on the back or helping out a player like Cameron John, who I think who certainly has the game to elevate to that DP World Tour status, certainly worthwhile reaching out on Instagram or something. Matias Sanchez missed that playoff by the barest of margins. I thought he was really impressive over the weekend as well. Obviously a winner at Wollonga this year, and it's always just fascinating, this last event, because it's every single player that wouldn't be going to tour school. So every player that doesn't have to go to first stage Q school, they're playing for their season next year, essentially. So we had Declan O'Donovan, who ended up finishing 4th as well. He takes out the Rookie of the Year. Your man, mate. Quick thought. Give us a quick thought on Declan O'Donovan.
I just think sky's the limit. I really do. His performances, especially on final days, have you noticed that he's got a really good last day of a round 4 in him? I know you get annoyed at me when I say final day, but he's got a very good round four.
Except
he's got a very
at New
good.
South Wales Open when he was in that final in that final group. But yeah, I couldn't agree more with you.
That's true. But this is what you need to look out for him, that he's getting his first start on the PGA Tour later this year, because he won the Canadian Amateur last year. He will play the Canadian Open this year. It's a really exciting year ahead for him. And I think he has shown us that for a young man who picked up a golf club at the age of 15 to where he is now in his early 20s, the last bloke that I can think of that picked up a golf club at 15 and went on to do okay?
Greg Norman?
Bang.
Nice. I love it. Just going down the leaderboard again, just because this is so important, Todd Sinnott ends up finishing in a tie for 4th, which gets him into that top 50, so he doesn't have to go to Q School, which is absolutely massive. It just means if you finish in that top 50, it means that you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to get a start at every single event next year on the PGA Tour of Australasia. So it's a huge carrot. It may just be, I know that the end of the 50s, so I think it ended up sneaking out of it to get into the Australian Open this year. But you may just miss the Australian Open. So Todd Sinnott, well done, played really well. Corey Lamb, who had such a great season last year, finished 7th this week, so did a great job to try to jump into it. Unfortunately, he's back to Q School. Josh Armstrong finished the year in an absolute flurry. He finishes inside the top 50 with really strong finishes in the last 3 events, 3rd at the Heritage, 8th this week, so he jumps into it. Another one who jumps into it and plays really well the last couple of weeks was Connor McDade, obviously friend of the program, Dennis McDade's son. And the man who finished 50th on the number was Matthew Griffin, a former Order of Merit champion of this tour, long-time professional golfer. Nice to see him play well over the weekend and pinch that last spot. Obviously, that means someone has to finish 51st, and unfortunately, that's the way the cookie crumbles in this sport. Whoever finished 51st will likely be going back to Tour School to improve their ranking. There is a category from 51 to 70, but you'll have to play well early in the season to be able to get more starts. So a huge week. The Nationals, a great place to finish and to culminate what was a really amazing season.
I just want to ask you one question before we finish up, and hopefully next year we're talking about, now as the season is finished, who's going to be playing State of Origin in your format and concept that you brought up on the previous episode of Course Language, all thanks to Callaway. We've got to get in front of Nick Dasty and present that to him. I'm just looking down at the performances of Cameron John, the amount of top 5s, top 10s, the 3 wins as well. And then to put that into perspective about where he finished in the Order of Merit, I know that you've said you've got to play well in the big events. So at the Australian Open this year, he was 57th. He missed the cut at the Oz PGA, finishing 91st. New Zealand Open he missed, 134. So those are the big ones that you're talking about, that he wasn't able to quite post a number. But the fact that he won 3 times, played 17 events, had multiple top 10s as well, and he has lost the Order of Merit to someone who played 4 events. 4 events,
yeah.
Do we have the equation right?
It's a really good question. There's no perfect scenario, I don't think. There's no perfect metric, or it's very, very difficult. What I will say is that the points that are doled out are based on not just money, but also the world ranking points that you would receive for playing that event. So the world ranking points represent the strength of field, and the points are balanced out by that. I think we've got a pretty good system, to be fair. I think that it's fair enough to play devil's advocate. If Cam John did get a DP World Tour card and was only able to get back to play 4 events, and they were only the 4 big ones, he would like the opportunity to be able to win the Order of Merit again and potentially put himself there. So it's hard to ask players who are playing on international tours to come back and play more events, I think, to be able to keep their card or to secure their card. I think we've got it pretty close to right. Just to put things in perspective, I'm glad you pulled me up on this, but Cam John finished 2nd by 6 points. Now, 6 points is the equivalent of finishing 32nd this week. So it's a number of Sundays that maybe you just didn't quite concentrate hard enough, and I'm not saying that Cam John did that by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying that every single shot across your year really matters. And in a season-long race, unfortunately, it's come down to 6 points for Cameron John. It would have been really interesting had Trav Smythe have played this last event if he didn't have it locked up. And I do feel for Cameron John for the year that he had, and to come so close, it must be a devastatingly difficult pill to swallow. But I can't sit here and argue out of both sides of my mouth. I think that the system that we've got at the moment is probably as fair as we're going to find it at the moment.
Great weekend for the Fitzpatricks. Alex Fitzpatrick followed up Matt's incredible win with a win of his own at the Indian Open for his first DP World Tour win. New Zealand's Nick Vogt, T16. Ryan Peake had a great result, Lynchy. €22,000 in the Sky Rocket for Peakey. T24, T29, Connor McKinney. T41, our man Quayle. Kazuma Kabori, T50, Jack Buchanan was 66th, and Harrison Crowe, Jordan Doole, Dave Micheluzzi, and Elvis Smiley, who needed a good finish to try and win his way into the World Top 50, which would have got him a Masters berth. Unfortunately, had 79 and 76 to miss the cut. And I did
during the week, actually, just on Elvis Smiley, heard that he and Richie Smith may have parted ways. So keep an eye on that.
Strange.
Yeah. I've got.
Where do you think he might be going?
I don't know if I can go with it at the moment, but parted ways at this moment. We'll see what happens going forward. But I do want to touch on the fact that DFL, that golf course for the Indian Open, looks absolutely psychotic. It looks incredible. So I spoke to a lot of the guys that have played there before. I haven't had the pleasure of getting up there and playing it, but the man who owns that golf course speaks very regularly about wanting the Indian Open to be the most difficult test of golf on the planet, including the US Open. So there are some just ridiculous greens out there, some ridiculous fairways and some ridiculous holes. But we've heard Rory McIlroy talk about how interested he is in playing it as well. So, I hope some people caught a bit of that on TV because it just looks crazy.
Yeah, it looked a lot of fun as well. And just the last one I want to mention is I commentated the World Sand Greens Championship today, the third time ever that this tournament's been won on the women's side, and Malaysia's Liana Durisic was able to come home. She just dominated down the stretch, Lynn. She started the day, I think, even with the card or 1 under, and she had 5 birdies in the last 7 holes down the stretch, and it's tough golf playing sand green golf. It's a different style of golf, and the players really do embrace it and have a lot of fun with it because it's something completely different. It's all about those who have probably played sandbelt or a lot of links know how to do this a bit better. It's lower ball flights. It's running the ball up onto a sand green rather than trying to land on the green and throw darts. So Lydia Hall, she won the first one. I don't think
you can be calling those two out. It's certainly a different style of golf, whether or not it's linksy or sandbelty.
I'm not saying it's the same as. I'm saying what it requires you to do might be better suited to those who have grown up being able to vary their ball flight and play lower, and you know what I mean. It was
not allowing you to get away with that in the same sentence, mate.
It plays a very important part, sand greens golf, in helping people play affordable golf and bringing them into the game. It does in this country. If you grew up in a country regional area, I started playing golf in a couple of different places. One of those was the Quarry Hill Golf Club in Bendigo, which is sand scrape as well. So it does play an important role around the joint. So well done. And Geordie O'Brien in the final group is always a heap of fun. And even if she's not playing as well as she likes, she's great to be on the broadcast because she brings just the right energy to every single group. There's a hole-in-one, Lynchy, which you don't often see. Naeun who also had a chip-in birdie from off the green. She had a hole-in-one not long after that too, and I don't think I've ever seen a hole-in-one on a sand greens course.
I'm sure there have been a couple. I've actually got a question. Let's segue that into one of our listener questions because Dame O'Ryan has written in about a hole-in-one, so we can run this as a follow-on, if you like, to the hole-in-one questions that we had last week. I've copped a bit of flack about these, by the way.
Have you really? Because we discussed this at the Heritage Pro-Am and it got brought up, didn't it? I think Older brought it up, and we said, no, we're standing by that. It is a course that you play on. It is, you pay to play on it, and it's over 100 metres. The hole-in-one stands.
Yeah, that's been the sticking point for me. I've had a couple of people reach out and say, well, what if it's 98 metres or 93 metres? So you look, a 1 is a 1 is a 1 is a 1, potentially. I don't know. Call it how you see it. Call it how you see it. So the question that Damo Ryan has posed is, playing a fun round with a mate, it's quiet. So on the day we're playing 2 golf balls and you hole your second ball on the par 3. So full length par 3, you've already hit one to the pin. It might have missed the green, it might have hit the green, but you've dobbed the next one. What do you reckon?
I'm going to say, so you've declared that, so here, I've got a few caveats on this, but I'm going to start. So I do, because I did this at Hamo, right? So this would have been pertinent to me when I played the back 9. I was playing, or the front 9, I played 2 balls against each other. So I'm going to say yes, but you have to have started the day like that. You have to have been consistent with it throughout the course of the day. You'd need to keep a scorecard of the 2 different balls, and I am willing to count it. If you've just chopped and changed, like I did play 2 different games on 2 different 9s, so maybe it wouldn't have counted for me. But if that's how you've started the day and you've carried that on all the way through, and you are playing 2 clearly different balls and scoring for each of them, I'm going to say it counts.
I think that any time someone asks you about a hole-in-one, you're bringing that story up, and I think the crowd around you gets to decide whether or not it's a hole-in-one or not. So I think it's a 1. Put it on the resume. That's fine. We've seen all those DP World media clicks where they hit 100 balls on a par 3 and how devastated the pros are when they don't make that one. So if they can't make it in 100, count your second one that goes in. Count them all. I don't care. They're all 1s, aren't they?
All right, well, that's our listener feedback and our listener scramble questions. Send them in too. We love hearing from you at Course Language Pod. Course Language Podcast at gmail.com. Get us on Instagram or on the email. Each and every week we throw up a scramble between ourselves. One of us brings a topic to debate. The other one has no idea what it was, but they get to pick the side of the argument they would like to champion. Lynchy, it's your turn this week on the scramble.
I don't want a piece of you. I want the whole thing. I'm a great scramble partner. I don't want a piece of you. I want the whole thing. Yeah, I did a few things here and there.
I saw that Whoop was being advertised across many of the golf events that I was watching over the weekend. I know that Rory McIlroy is a big investor in Whoop. I noticed that most of the players that were contending either had it on their bicep or had a Whoop on. And I was curious. So I was talking to the guys about what could potentially make things more interesting or other talking points. And I would be fascinated to see or to have the tour or any tour say, hey, we'll pay for your subscription to Whoop, but we want your login and we just want your heart rate coming so as that if you're playing and you're in contention or you're on the cut line, we just want to see what your heart rate goes to or whether or not it changes. I think that'd be a fascinating thing to add to the coverage or to any professional sport, to be perfectly honest. I'm not sure whether or not you can do that. But the question I have for you, Sammy, is would you allow your Whoop data to be shown when you're coming down the last and you have got the tournament on the line?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I would. I mean, I'd be happy to wear a Whoop when we're filming this podcast. You'd probably find out exactly how unfit I am. When I hear that I've said that Tiger won the Masters in 2018, I would have spiked at that moment in the podcast when I got that wrong, and you had to pull me up. No, absolutely. I think anything that takes people, and I'll say me as people, you don't count as people because you're a former pro, so you get it a bit more. Anything that takes people inside the experience of a professional golfer to further illustrate just how hard this is. This is. We try, and you do a great job in explaining everything that goes into a shot with you and your caddy before you have to make that decision and then go about going through the process to then execute it, but then you've got to clear your mind first and all that goes on with that. But when there's millions of dollars on the line, like for instance, when Rory missed that short putt, was that the US Open a couple of years ago that he missed the short one? I would have loved it then. I would have loved it in the playoff with Justin Rose as he's thinking, is this going to happen to me again? I think that would have added something quite extraordinary to to that story. So I think it, again, only enhances the drama in and around it, highlights just how difficult it can make, how difficult this game is for the people that are playing it at the highest level. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would be knocking back a free subscription to Whoop if the tour was going to pay for it. And I think that you'd get at least your money back in viewership potentially. So if I'm arguing the opposite side, I believe tennis has banned it. I'm not sure that you're allowed to wear a Whoop when you're playing competitive tennis. Hard to argue against this one because I'm actually all for it, obviously. But maybe I don't want people to know when I'm feeling the stress. Maybe I don't want my opponents to know whether or not my heart rate goes up when I'm on the putting green or whether I'm on the tee. So maybe in terms of like an actual sportsmanship type thing, I don't want people to know when I'm feeling under the pump. So maybe my putting might be really feeling pretty average, or I'm not a very confident putter, so that the heart rate goes up a bit more when I'm putting. I mightn't be a great iron player, so when it comes around to Ryder Cups and President's Cups and things like that, people may know my weakness. It may start to highlight areas that I need to work on as well, which I would want to know personally anyway. But that would be the only argument against it. I don't have anything better for you there, but I think it would certainly add to the coverage.
You know what flashed into my mind when you said that? I wonder what the readings would have been on Greg Norman 1996 Masters in that famous vision of him, the re-gripping of the club in that moment.
Yeah.
And you actually raise a really interesting point. I wonder how people would be able to use that against you if they're coming up against you on a final day, final group, match play, like Ryder Cup. And actually, I think because of what you said, I know that's your argument against it. It almost helps me with my argument for it because can you imagine going into a Ryder Cup and you're doing your matchups as the captain and you're sitting down with Luke Donald and he's saying, well, look, you've got Patrick Cantlay today. And even though Patrick Cantlay could put a wooden leg to sleep when he plays the game at the glacial pace that he does, what we now know, because we've got his Whoop, is that he is actually peaking in like he is that. So if you just want to chirp him a little bit in that moment, that's where he's at his most vulnerable. Wow, I had never even thought of that. I wonder how many players would actually say, I don't want you to have that data that you could use against me. Or would some go, well, you've already got every other bit of data?
Probably most of them, I would say. It'd be great for the viewer, but the pros wouldn't allow it, I don't think.
Could you think of a player most likely to use that against someone? If I said to you, think of a player, close your eyes, think of a player who you think would use that data against another player verbally, who comes to mind?
I would actually say it's more about how you would set the course up. Depending on, as the home Ryder Cup, you've got the option to set the course up however you want. So you would use the data, assume the pairs, and try to set up the course accordingly. I don't think anyone individually would necessarily be sifting through that data necessarily.
You don't reckon that if you know that you're in the final group at a major with such and such, you don't reckon the night before with your coach, you're just having a look at where they're spiking and all that kind of stuff when the heart rate's ticking over the most ferociously?
Don't know. I think you'd be worried about yourself a little bit, but yeah, it'd be an extra thing to certainly look at.
Mate, I like that. I like that. No more. Yeah, make the broadcast even more intricate as it possibly can be. I'm all for it. I think it's an out-and-out winner. Hey, it feels like it's the calm before the storm, doesn't it, for this week? We know there's a PGA event. The season done now for the WPGA and the PGA Tour of Australasia. Of course, there's LPGA golf. I think Liv's on a bit of a break at the moment until they come back to Mexico. So this really does feel like the calm before the storm. This week is really all about those who aren't yet qualified for Augusta to try to force their way in. And there's a couple of big names that aren't. I think Ricky Fowler might still be outside where he would need to be. So it certainly is a must-watch in that space as we get set to settle the field once and for all.
Absolutely. Yeah, keep an eye on it this week. But we've got one thing on our mind, Sammy. I think we'll pay attention, but it's a big couple of weeks coming up.
Hey, Lynchy, we've spoken for far longer than we were ever going to, but we did talk about the fact that Paul Gower was going to be our special guest. We're going to put that separately underneath this week's episode of the Course Language podcast, all thanks to Callaway. And we thought it was a timely week to use the chat with Gary Lynchy. I don't think the coverage of Australian golf has ever been better And I know it sort of jumps around different teams each week, and it could probably only be better if I was doing them all. That being said, your analysis this year has just been absolutely elite. And between you and Nick and Gower, you cover every single angle of it. And Ewan does a great job, and Bell as well. And then when the other teams and the other people come in, and when Ali Whitaker comes back as well, I mean, we get really serviced by extraordinary insight. And mate, your commentary has just gone to another level this year, so I wanted to congratulate you on that. But what Gowie brings to the table, I think, is just undeniable, and the place that he holds now in Australian golf is a really important one. So with the season finishing up, a man who has been so brilliant at bringing us some of the great moments, either on course or with the shows that he does on Fox, part of the Callaway family now. Check out the quick nine that we played with Paul Gow at the Callaway Quantum launch as well. It'll be well worth the listen.
Right back to you as well, mate. The New South Wales stuff that you do is second to none, and it'd be great to work more regularly together. That's why we do this pod. We love doing it, and we hope you do too. So again, till next time, mate. We've enjoyed this immensely.
What happens on Course Plays on Course Language next week? Big Masters preview. You do not want to miss that. Check out the YouTube channel and the Instagram page as well. And we want to start hearing from you as well. CourseLanguagePod@gmail.com or @CourseLanguagePod. What happens on Course Language? What happens on Course Plays on Course Language? Lynchy, get it right.
Hit 'em well.